One set.
Camera rolling.
Sound.
The good, the bad, and the just plain standard. Take one.
Salut!
Hey!
All right.
Welcome back to the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast, where we provide you with our informed opinions on movies we watched together. We are your hosts,
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Today is all about Nosferatu.
Starring.
Max Schreck, Gustav von Wangenheim, Greta Schroeder, Alexander Grenache, and George H. Schnell.
Right. So you might be wondering, what's Nosferatu? Because unless you've aware of silent cinema, which not a lot of people are actually, you might not have heard of Nosferatu. And then might be wondering, why are we doing Nosferatu? So today is the first episode of October, and this is the horror month. Now, we could have just watched some standard horror movies, such as Friday the 13th, you know, all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all these good series that most people do. But I thought, and I suggested to my fellow hostees, that why don't we do something different? Why don't we review 3 movies that affected us as children or as young adults? The horror movie that left a lasting opinion on us, and, more importantly, the one that we could return to as adults and creatives and watch objectively, while also being aware that this was the film that pushed us towards the horror genre. So today is Anouk's episode. So Anouk, Nosferatu, please explain.
I will do. So my parents met at film school in London. So I was pretty much brought up with these very strange, silent black and white films. While other people wanted to be Disney princesses, I wanted to go home and watch Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was just the kind of serious, quiet, internal child that I was. And Nosferatu was one of my favorite films. Believe it or not, it was this Germanic, black and white, silent 1922 film was my favorite film as a child. And I think mostly it's because it was so different. I watched it nearly every single night and it scared the shit out of me. How
old were you?
I don't know the exact date, but I must have been like...
Were you primary school age?
This was before...
Before primary school?
Yeah, so I must have been like 8, 9.
No, before primary school was like under 5, 4.
No, during primary.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you said before primary school.
No.
During primary school. Before high school.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit better. I was like, God's sake.
I was 3 years old. But my dad, obviously my parents loved the fact, you know, that their eldest child loved these incredible kind of new style films, you know, that I didn't want to go to Disney World, and I was kind of this very serious creative, even as like primary school girl. But I think there was a point where, you know, my dad having to wake up to me in their beds like, save me, I'm scared of the vampire, Nosferatu's out my window. It's like, why do you have to watch this film every night? And every single night I would come back to my father and say, can you put Nosferatu on? He'd be like, but it scares you. Every night you wake up pretty much screaming, why do you want to put this, why do you want to make this like your film?
So Anouk, could you give us a plot summary of Nosferatu for our listeners, please?
Right. So if anyone has watched Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's loosely based on it. It's about a vampire who gets a real estate agent from Wisborg, Germany, to get him a very big deserted house in their small town. And so he sends one of his people out there. Then ensues a lot of strange kind of fantastical things. He basically terrorizes Wisborg in his own way. And then Ellen, the estate agent's wife, she tries to find ways of basically killing the vampire, and there are ways to do it, and sadly pretty much kills herself, as in she sacrifices herself for the cause. And obviously as a child I didn't see that, like I just saw this scary thing, but that film definitely affected me. And I think it might be because, you know, I was brought up in the 90s. I was born in 92. So, you know, digital, color, video. We were still watching videos. DVD wasn't a thing. But you know, I was watching, people around me were watching Alice in Wonderland, Bambi, you know, so it was all about color, animation. And I think maybe that's another thing that really scared me, the fact that this was completely different. And it was terrifying, but also because it was horror in a different style. It was like, you know, edits and lighting, but not obviously not with electricity. It was done with, you know, see-through glass put in front of the camera lens, because that's the only way that they could kind of, so it was like a wash of color rather than spotlights and mixture of colors.
Well, preteen you must have had a self-awareness of production stories, because this might possibly be the most exciting production of a film in history.
Amazing.
So over to Yann in Bilingual Corner to bring you up to date with the lingo and story of the production of Nosferatu. No pressure, Yann.
Well, it's a silent movie. So we were introduced last year with the 93-7 rule, which was devised by a professor, an Iranian professor, Albert Mehrabian. The results of his studies remarked that 3 elements accounted differently for our liking of a person who puts forward a message concerning their feelings. Words account for 7%, tone of voice accounts for 38%, and body language accounts for 55% of the liking. His findings were often misquoted and misinterpreted, and have also become as the 7-38-55 rule for the relative impact of words, tone of voice, and body language. Last year, we studied at a school called Acting Coach Scotland, and the base of the method they're teaching there is inside a book called Truth in Action that you can find on the website as a PDF. 40 quid. 14.
40? We got a real bargain there.
Because there's a bargain, it's supposed to be 20. Well, anyway, in this book it says human communication is 7% verbal. Read that again, 7%. The remaining 93% is made up body language, facial expression, eye contact, proximity, gesture, posture, and elements of speech like tone, prosody, rhythm, pitch, volume, and pace. Almost all of what we communicate to an audience is transmitted through the 93%. Which is absolutely not what Albert Mehrabian said. He was only talking about feelings in a certain set of studies, and he debunked the fact that this could be applied to all communications quite rapidly, actually. And, well, I mean, when you were younger, if the movie didn't have the slates explaining, you know, with all the text,
yes,
would you have understood anything, you feel?
No. Well, I mean...
More than 55%? Less?
Would I have understood?
Would you understand what was going on in the movie without the title cards or the dialogue?
Without the 7%, without the actual words?
Yes, probably.
I would say yeah, for sure. Because, again, the dialogue in this movie it's what's called intertitles, which for our audience members are... It's like subtitles, except they're not throughout the whole film. Intertitles happen in between scenes. I believe that's what they're called, intertitles. That might be complete falsehood, but we'll go for it.
I'm kind of going through the film in my head, and obviously as a child, there are some things that I don't remember. Like some scenes, you know, because I watched it a few days ago, and I'm seeing it with completely different eyes. And there are some scenes that I definitely didn't even think were even there. Like I don't even remember those scenes happening. But I'm kind of going through it in my head, and I do feel like I would have understood it.
Yeah, I understood.
Without the, yeah.
Okay. I now as an adult understood what was going on without the intertitles. If anything, I would like if they weren't there. In a way, because they do. I know it's a style of the genre. The intertitles are there for about between 7 and 10 seconds. Like they're not like subtitles that are on while the person is talking.
Yes.
They're lingering so that the audience members can read them. There's also scenes in the movies where there's like big long letters are on screen too.
Yes, and also it's cool because you can, for international audiences, you just have to translate those slates and
yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, and I mean, if you watch really, really closely, you can probably tell that the actors are actually speaking German, right? So
If you understand the German tongue.
If you understand, well, I mean, because I'm not fluent at all in German, but I grew up listening to a lot of German and I speak a little bit, as my mother's German. And there are some words that I definitely can see them mouthing that they're not speaking English, they're speaking German.
That's quite interesting.
So what they're saying isn't exactly what we're reading or seeing, but it's obviously also part of the film, which is quite nice because funnily enough, the English translations, they're not very good.
Yeah, you sent us a YouTube. It's in public domain, so when you type on Google streaming Nosferatu, you get few links.
Yeah.
The one you sent to us was low quality, but I watched the HD version, which was not in sepia. It was actually pure black and white. Yeah, that's the one I watched, which is like way bigger and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I used to watch the one that was only black and white as a kid. And actually in the last few years when I kind of saw little snippets, you know, like while you're acting and all this kind of stuff, and seeing it in color was very strange because...
You didn't remember the scene?
No, and it didn't look right to me.
That's quite interesting, actually, if you watched the film and then they redid it.
Was it actual color or
no? It's like those,
sepia, right?
It's like those, yeah.
Yeah, I meant sepia. I just meant the wash of color. The any color on Nosferatu film was strange for me to see because it looked wrong to me.
The best example of that is when people watch Psycho and then they watch the remake of Psycho with Vince Vaughn, which is shot for shot, but it's in color.
Gus Van Sant,
It blows your mind because you're like, you expect to see, you know, the stars of the Psycho, you know? But it's not. And it's bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I mean...
not necessarily a bad film, by the way.
I haven't actually seen it, but I've seen one or two scenes from it. And strangely, even though it is the same... shot by shot, Alfred Hitchcock, you know, all of his love and passion was in all of those shots. Even in the new version, I didn't like it. And why is that? I think it's because even if Hitchcock was filming in color, he wouldn't have chosen those colors or those actors. So there are so many things that are involved in film that you don't think about. Like, oh, it's going to be the same. It won't be. There are so many things you have to think about.
It's quite interesting because cinema today is very flash and very big and very in your face and then there's the other side of it that's subtle and it's like you're looking in through a window at somebody's life. But when we watch a film from 1922, which is, you know, 95 years old, it just amazes you how far stuff has come and how so much of cinema has changed.
In less than 100 years.
In less than 100 years.
Long ago, really. We've come so far. And I think it's very sad when people say things like, oh, I don't like subtitles. Or I don't watch black and white films. Oh, they're boring. It's like, I kind of understand why people say that because we're so desensitized to things that aren't bang, back, wallop into your face. You know, like we want all of this like stimulus because we're given it so much through the digital age. It's kind of like Dave Chappelle calls it the age of spin, right? Because it's just, you know, it's always there in your face. So I can understand maybe why, you know, people maybe a bit younger than us, you know, in their teenage years might watch this film and think, this is boring because there is nothing, I don't know, in your face. It is very subtle. It's very
You have to think
raw.
You have to think where this comes. You know, like 1922 is 4 years after the First World War.
Exactly.
And it's in Germany, right? A little historical context for you there. Germany is broke. Germany has no money at all.
And also Germany is probably emotionally scarred because it's gone through a lot of stuff. And then like with the reparations and how much they owe to the rest of the world is insane. So,
which makes this even more of a journey because you think about what's going on in the world and there were still people out there making cinema and not for profit either. Cause I don't know, Yann, do you know the production stories about the whole of Nosferatu?
I have a ton of stuff about the copyright problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to set up for that is, the company that made this made one film and this is it because the estate and the wife of Bram Stoker sued the production company for basically stealing their idea. Or no, not obtaining the rights to make a Dracula movie.
It was unauthorized.
It was an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And they tried to change certain names and...
Well, Nosferatu for a start.
Nosferatu, which is, they say, kind of Romanian, Hungarian for Satan, or vampire, some people say. But if anyone has read Bram Stoker's Dracula, like, it's pretty much exactly the same, you know? Like, it's...
Does Dracula try and buy a house?
Yeah.
Does he really?
Yeah.
I need to read this book.
It's a fantastic book, and it's a fantastic film, and it's sad. And I don't really know why Bram Stoker said no to this film.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's very sad because it's a very...
It's his wife, so wasn't the guy dead?
Yes.
Bram must have been.
I did.
He wrote the book in 1897, so that's the production started in 1921.
Maybe
He might have been, yeah, because I know that his wife kind of pushed it, but I don't know if he was the guy that kind of started it off.
No.
And she was kind of just like, you know, thinking about his legacy and didn't want to say yes. But I mean, they broke the production company basically.
Well, they declared bankruptcy to not be able to get out of paying the fee. Because if that's what you can do as a business, you can declare bankruptcy and then they can't claim the money because you don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's the single vehicle production company. Like, if you're also unsure about your project, you create a company just for that project.
Yeah.
Like, we won't be producing anything with milk in a wine glass.
Yeah.
We'll be using various different names just in case.
Wine in a mug.
Mug glass production.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing about copyright, right? So what's copyright? That's, according to somewhere, the exclusive and assignable legal right given to the originator for a fixed number of years to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material. Time of protection is life of author plus a certain number of years, which differs depending on the country and after which the work enters public domain, except in Mexico, where it's 100 years, and after that, the government get the rights. There's no public domain in Mexico.
Wow.
Dear.
Did not know that.
I didn't know that.
There's just one exception in the whole world, and that's Peter Pan. The Great Ormond Street Hospital's Children's Charity has the rights to the royalty in perpetuity in the UK, granted by a Copyright Design and Patents Act.
Oh.
Yeah, it applies to stage productions, broadcasting, and publication of the whole or any substantial part of the work or an adaptation of it in the UK.
That's quite good. So anyone does Peter Pan, then the Great Ormond Street Hospital get a fair chunk.
Only applies in the UK.
So if
for direct adaptation. That doesn't apply to derivative work, like sequels, prequels, spin-offs.
Okay.
Right, okay.
The play, however, because he started with a book, but there was a play afterwards, is still in copyright in the US until 2023, and in Spain until this year. The copyright expired everywhere else except, Mexico.
That's quite good. That's
So
quite good.
what kind of happens with Nosferatu now? Like, everything that's in circulation is allowed and everything's kind of cool? Or is Bram Stoker's kind of, you know, I know that some people have publication houses and all this kind of stuff.
First of all, the name of the director, you have in mind the name of the director?
Yes, I do.
F.W. Murnau?
Murnau.
Yeah.
Murnau.
For some reason, due to a copyright error, Dracula was in the public domain at the time, but in the US. One of the inspiration for having the movie done was a guy in the production had some war experience, and in the winter of 1916, a Serbian farmer told him that his father was a vampire.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ah, yes.
Crazy.
That's amazing.
And Nosferatu survived because Prana Film, who was the company that declared bankruptcy, was sued, and the court ordered all existing prints of Nosferatu to be burnt. But one was already in circulation, so there was many copy afterwards, and it was kept alive by a cult following.
Yeah, it's a cult film.
Making it an example of an early cult film.
Amazing story.
Yeah,
Amazing story.
I'm glad this survived the purge of, corporations, because it's a fantastic piece of cinema. That's a great example of old school making movies.
It's a lovely film.
Yeah.
Jonathan Harker is the name of the original movie, and Thomas Hutter. Quite close.
So let's
Yes,
talk.
yes.
Let's talk about the movie. The first thing I want to talk about is since we're actors, is the style of acting in this film, right?
Yes.
To me, it feels like they're on stage.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because there's not really close-ups, as we know. Like, shots as exists in Hollywood right now don't exist at this point in filmmaking.
No, and they don't subtly cheat. They're cheating to the camera, very obviously.
Lingo corner. Cheating. What's cheating?
Well, you have to make sure that, in terms of camera or...
Just in general.
Well, in general, make sure that the audience can see what you're doing.
Position, body position, facial expression especially.
Exaggerate stuff on stage.
Well, they definitely exaggerate in this movie too, to a good effect actually, because nothing is... You believe everything on screen, which is really bizarre to think for a film that's in 1922, because you know that the style of acting is totally different.
Melodramatic.
Like, we're still in melodrama. We haven't even hit, the beginning of Ibsen and Zola and Stanislavski and Chekhov even. We're not even near these greats of literary plays.
Naturalism.
Or are we?
No,
Were we at that point in history?
No, I don't know.
Murnau prepared carefully for the shooting. He had sketches that corresponded to all the scenes, and he had a metronome to control the pace of the acting.
That's amazing. Genius stuff. I mean, there is definitely a fluidity to the acting. So I can kind of see that there was a pacing that, that was going on behind the scenes. And also maybe even like there's a different pace between the happy scenes and the kind of scary scenes where Nosferatu comes in and it kind of slows down and it's a bit more kind of darker. I mean, Max Schreck is a
oh my god, yeah,
genius. But even like the makeup was like, wow.
It only had one camera because of cost reasons. And so there was just one original negative because they just had one camera.
There's a shot later on in the movie where they do Nosferatu as like a shadow that disappears. And you could so see that they so put two pieces of film on top of each other to do that effect. And it's amazing.
Yes.
As an hallucination, yes.
Right, for context, I just looked up, like Ibsen and all that. So they were around because Doll's House and Hedda Gabler were 1879 and 1890. So
that early?
Yeah. So what I mean then is not that it wasn't about that it was in theatre, but cinema obviously hadn't got there yet.
I'm guessing.
Because it was such a popular media and we hadn't really mastered angles yet.
No, and I mean cameras were expensive and being in location were expensive. And I'm also guessing like if Germany, this is after the First World War, if Germany was broke and going through kind of an emotional trauma, maybe they were a little bit more behind than the West.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the West, I mean UK and America.
Yeah.
I think there was some deliberate choices like Count Orlok, which is the pendant of Dracula, is only seen blinking once in the whole movie.
Wow.
Yes.
That's quite
near
good.
the end of Act 1. Yeah, they actually had all the acts identified on screen.
Jeez.
Which was interesting. You had that also in your version? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so much in this film that it's so iconic and yet so difficult to talk about. Because silent films, it's not like you can talk about specific action scenes, but definitely the scene that Anouk's told me scared her the most, and is the iconic scene of Nosferatu, is when he discovers that the Count Orlok is Nosferatu, and he opens the door to see him in his full 6-foot form with long hands, and he runs and hides in his room, and then the door opens itself and you just see this haunting figure coming into the room, and you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen? And then suddenly we cut to something completely different. We cut back to the wife. Which I'm like, nowadays, they would never do this.
No.
Would you?
No, and I mean, they might have, I think they were trying to say that Ellen, his wife, has a kind of connection to her husband and she can kind of feel that Dracula, Nosferatu. Sorry, Bram Stoker. Nosferatu is just about to hurt her husband.
You want
so that's the whole point. That's why she's screaming hooter hooter, because that's her husband.
Isn't it Hawker?
No, because Jonathan Harker is Bram Stoker's protagonist.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and now it's Thomas Hutter.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
love that.
it's a
Well,
kind of subtle difference.
I wish they'd, instead of doing Nosferatu, it's Dracula. What should we call them? Batula. I've come to haunt you. I am Batula. The non-copyrighted version of Dracula.
Could have been Batman, but there would be oof. I've copyrighted that.
Jesus, DC.
You know that we only see Nosferatu only 9 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, just like I think we only see Annabelle Lecter for 20 minutes in
Yes.
Silence of the Lambs, and I think I don't because it's for another podcast, but it's like 4 minutes for the first Alien, something like this.
But I mean, that's the whole
It's a very
thing. If
short
you
time.
want to scare your audience, don't oversaturate them with the knowledge of everything that your character does. Because if you only see it for a few minutes, then every time it comes on screen, you're terrified because it's like almost like you're seeing it for the first time again. If you do it for like more than, so for example, how we were talking about protagonists and antagonists in is it the Friday the 13th franchise?
Oh, yeah.
So like how Jason suddenly becomes a protagonist because we see him so much that we start pitying him. He starts becoming a hero to us rather than in the first one when he's definitely an antagonist. He is a villain because we don't see him very much. And he's obviously killing people, which is not a good thing to do. And then now that because they wanted to make it like this massive franchise and get more money from it, naughty, big corporations, you've destroyed so many films. Let's not take on them.
Well, let's.
But do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you oversaturate it with one person, your audience is going to start pitying them and liking that character, even if they do awful things.
I mean, Hollywood does that, and we're going to get to this, and we'll talk more in depth when we review Jigsaw, the reboot of Saw.
Yes.
But spoiler for anyone that's not seen Saw, right? The villain in Saw, John Kramer, or Jigsaw, dies at the end of Saw 3, right? Spoiler. But don't worry, because John Kramer's in every single movie. They use him in flashbacks, right? And this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, the writers clearly had a point and they only wanted to do 3 movies. And after that, they got a whole new crew in. And it just shows you that Hollywood can let it go. Like, if it works and makes money, we gotta keep putting them out every year. And that's in the end what killed Saw, because Saw had been going for 6 years, and then Paranormal Activity came out and destroyed them at the box office. And then they rushed the final 2 Saw movies into one film and killed the franchise. Entirely. Killed it dead, because they knew they weren't going to make any money anymore. And now that Paranormal Activity is dead, they've brought it back. It's like, right, it's done. Let's bring it back.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I even remember watching Saw 1 and 2, and you're scared of Jigsaw, right? Because he's this mastermind and he does all these awful things, and it's not horror, gore porn. What's it
Not
called?
yet. Torture porn.
Torture porn, yeah.
Torture porn comes in after 2, because two's the one everyone knows, because 2 starts with the Venus flytrap scene, which is when the contraption like squashes his head. He's got to cut out his own eye to get out. That's the most famous, apart from the bear trap, which is the one that rips your mouth in half. You know, the one that's
the one with the girl.
Yeah, Amanda from the very first one. That's the most iconic.
Spoiler alert: becomes Jigsaw in the Saw 10. Which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but anyway.
That's actually, she's in Saw 2, she becomes Jigsaw. It's revealed.
Is that Saw 2?
That's Saw 2. That's how quick they do that bit. We will talk about the whole Saw franchise in another podcast.
Oh, I just remember hating that, though.
I could talk for days.
Yeah, let's not. Sorry.
Anyway, Nosferatu
is amazing. But yeah, this is what we were saying, that you don't see Nosferatu very much because
it's more scarier when you do see him. And also, probably on a practical reason, that makeup must have been a hell of a long time to put on.
Oh, God, yeah.
I also noted the plot hole.
In a silent film? God damn.
No. Yes. What happened?
What now?
Where?
At the very end. First of all, the sun is rising, so the way it's designed, it's well done. You can imagine that the sun is rising from behind the camera, pretty much. But for some reason, he's killed by the sun when he goes to the window. And why does he go to the window anyway? He's supposed to know that, well, maybe not, because one of the key points of this movie that was not repeated in any other, vampire thingy is that it was repeated, but this one originated the thing because Bram Stoker novel didn't have that. The fact that, vampires are killed by sunlight.
Yes.
Bram Stoker, they are not killed by
No,
sunlight.
you actually have to cut his head off, stuff it with garlic, put a stake through. It's very vicious, the way that you kill vampires. And this one, it's just subtle. It's like, he sees the sun, in 5 seconds, he's a pile of ash on the floor. And that's it. That's Dracula dead. And then Knock in the psychiatric ward says, my master is dead. And I think it's kind of hinted at that he dies as well.
Yeah.
Because he kind of goes
Or
like
he
this.
he falls apart. He's not got a purpose anymore. Yeah.
He closes his eyes, and so I feel like what's hinted at
Does
he dies as well.
Does Dracula have a servant in the novel?
He has women.
No, like in his Transylvanian house.
He has people. He has women that he has changed
Into
vampires, and he keeps them.
So it's like Knock, that version of them.
Well, no, because he has. Well, let's not. I mean, now we're talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula, but basically Renfield is what Knock was, but he wasn't his estate agent. He was just someone in a psychiatric ward.
Oh, right, okay.
And Dracula decides to use him to get to Mina, who is
Jonathan Harker's wife.
John Harker's wife, because it seems like, and this is like with the book if you ever watched Nosferatu, which I really think everyone should. There's a book that Huta finds, and his wife picks it up, and it basically says a woman pure of heart, which usually means virgin, which is bullshit in these days, but you know, like in
pure of vagina.
Exactly,
To
it was a
quote Gavin and
purity.
Stacey, comes in a white dress. I know it's white, but who can honestly say nowadays they're a virgin?
Exactly. But obviously back then, she was a virgin. And so basically any woman that is pure of heart make Nosferatu forget that the sun is coming up. So basically that's what she's doing at the window. She's kind of, you know, that mirror, that window scene where he's looking through his window and she's looking through hers. And she's trying to keep him there. And then she invites him in to her house, and that's how she kills him. But sadly, the only way that she's done that is to make Nosferatu, suck her blood, and that's why he
Forgets that the
sun's coming up. But that also means that she had to die.
We'll just use Batman from now on to confuse even more.
No, I know, very confusing.
I'm sure that's a plot point in the Lesbian Vampire Slayers.
Oh, are you kidding? No, because this is an actual thing and this is what I meant by
good movie, by the way.
Dracula and Nosferatu and probably vampires. There's this kind of section. This is probably why vampires are now sexy, because they've always had this connection with manipulating the women of the story to get to the men. And that's how they do it. They kill the women so that the men come and kill them so that then they can kill them. It's a very strange way of doing it. And this is why in Count Dracula's house, he has actual women living in his house who terrorize Jonathan Harker.
There were a few moments that I particularly liked. I don't know if it was very subtle. I don't know if you noticed. At some point, we see a cock a few times.
Hey.
The animal?
The bird.
Yeah.
The male,
That announced
the male birds.
The one which announces the sunrise.
What Nosferatu were you watching?
Nosferatu.
I've come to suck your... Hang on a moment.
There's the cock crowing. Okay.
The cock rises in the morning.
Cockerel.
The male rooster.
Yes.
And,
This one's definitely getting a not safe for work flag.
and on the wall where Knock is,
Yes.
there are some weird graphs and one which looks strangely exactly because in my family I am famous for my rooster drawings.
Oh, I'm so glad you said rooster. I'm so glad you said rooster.
I draw cock really
I'm
well.
really good at drawing cocks.
That's the cock is a French. That's our emblem.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah,
Ah,
The
yes.
cock's motif.
yeah, with a spitting shit. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a drawing of a cockerel on the
I'll
floor.
try to put some comparative images somewhere on the website or you see the animal crowing and then we go into the prison cell and you can clearly see something shaped exactly like a big
No, I
Cockerel.
saw that too.
So would that probably be significant to Nosferatu is killed by sunlight? Like the crow?
I don't know, maybe it was like a kind of what we saw in Baby Driver in the laundromat when it was turning and then it was a record, kind of a link, direct link between two shots, kind of something like that.
That's cool.
That's quite cool. I love little things like that.
I quite like the sequence, right? When he stops at the inn and he's like, I must hurry. I must get to Count Orlok's house. And everyone in the village like does the dramatic turn. No. And they're like, you can't go out tonight. There's a werewolf out. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's a werewolf subplot in this film? And then it cuts to some horses running away being chased by...
Wait for it.
Not a wolf. A hyena.
Yes.
They got a hyena instead of a wolf, which I'm like, alright, fair enough.
And it actually looks like a painted raccoon. Like it just looks a bit like that's a tiny hyena as well.
It's not even the fact that the werewolf plot is like, why is this here? It's the fact they pay it off when he wakes up in the morning, the horses are like running away from a man in pajamas. So clearly the werewolf is turned back into a man. So they pay off the werewolf plot.
That's amazing.
At least they did it there. It would have been more funny if like the Nosferatu is sucking Ellen's blood and then the hyena breaks through the window and like ends because and it's Nosferatu versus the werewolf.
Oh god, versus hyena.
I love the letter also. He sent to his wife. I took pictures. Like the mosquitoes are a terrible nuisance. Two just bit me on the neck, side by side, quite close together.
That's amazing. There's so many little things. And this is what I meant by it just looks a little bit like there was a translation gone wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Like people that weren't totally fluent in English were translating the German.
It's the equivalent of Google Translate.
Yeah, a little bit.
If you ever want that fun, just take like standard sentences and translate them into other languages and then translate them back because they don't come back the exact same.
Also, when the doctor was showing the polyp with tentacles to his students.
Yeah, what?
Why
It was nice. What was that? But it was nicely that it felt like eerie and ethereal, as he said.
And then
Yes. It was a bit weird, and I don't really know what it was trying to like. What is a polyp with tentacles? Is that like a vampire thing?
No.
Polyp is like supposed to be a germ, or I don't.
Yeah.
No, because it was not a microscope. It was just like it was in a.
It was
fish
a
tank.
box.
It was like kind of small fish tank.
The other thing
it's
that
a bacteria.
The other thing that confused me was did Nosferatu bring the rats with him to bring the plague, or did they just happen to be on that boat? Like they would have been back anyway.
Maybe he did it for like a
cover-up?
a divergence.
Is anything like that in the book? Sorry, I'm yawning. Sorry.
Are there rats in Dracula?
Or a plague.
Is there a plague? No. I mean, because I was very confused at if the plague was Nosferatu killing all these people.
I don't think it kills anyone except
No,
Ellen.
no, this is it. So he sucks people's blood, right?
Yeah.
And so they think it's
The rats.
boils. Yes.
Okay.
They think they've been bitten by something, and then they're like, "Oh, everyone's dying," but it's just Dracula.
Killing people.
Sorry, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Sucking people's blood until they're dead.
I can't wait for the episode when we do like Dracula, and then it's like, oh, Nosferatu.
I mean Dracula.
There is also a guy in the ship, a crewman, who had an amazing hairstyle. He looked like Beast. In
Oh my
X-Men.
god, yeah.
In X-Men, yeah.
Yes,
It was
he
great.
did.
He looks like the stereotypical image of a ye olde sailor.
Yes, it's very funny.
Big, massive mutton chops. He looks like somebody that would then advertise Fisherman's Friend, which is
Yes.
which is a brand
Which
of
was my
mint.
grandfather's favourite thing in the world.
A brand of mints.
But I would also say that 1920s German actors had fear down to a T.
Oh yeah.
Like their scared face was so good. Every single person is just wow.
Everything in this film is down to a T. You know?
It's very good.
Because there are some black and white silent movies that just aren't good.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
like, I won't lie. Sometimes it is hard. You have to be in the right frame of mind to sit down and watch a silent movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I would have to be in the mood to sit down and watch D.W. Griffith's Intolerance.
Yes,
You know?
right. But I mean, that's down to you, not them.
Yeah, but Nosferatu, even if you're not in the right mood, it's watchable.
Yeah,
Totally
for
is.
Sure.
Totally is.
There are some scenes that do lag a little bit, and it's a bit kind of exposition-y. Another word,
yeah.
Hollywoodized and exposition-y.
The frames were well composed. I love that. Especially one of the very last ones, when you've got on the top right side the window, then there's on the bottom left the bed, and you see Ellen lying and just the head of
yes.
Nosferatu. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful frame.
And
beautiful framing.
They do that with Thomas as well, with the shadow coming up with his hands kind of outstretched, like he's about to attack, but it's only his shadow coming over the body of, and then they do it with the wife, which was quite a nice kind of connection. It's like he's terrorizing their family.
Lots of good stuff in this film.
Did you know that Bram Stoker was the assistant of the actor Henry Irving?
No, I didn't. Really?
Yeah, and it's quite funny because last year we had a class called LOS, so that was Language of Stage and Screen. And in one of the papers that was given to us, there was a bit about Henry Irving, which turned out to become one of the greatest actors of his time. But the first time he went on stage, it was a total disaster. He forgot his lines.
Oh no!
He left in, it was just a disaster. And,
God.
This is a story I read like 2 or 3 months before we actually went ourselves on stage. So hopefully I won't do that.
And even if it does, don't worry, it'll work out for you.
Well, what's funny, what I find really interesting is that quite a lot of these things that we have that like, oh, the world is only made for certain people. It's kind of funny because you watch things like film, even in, 1920s Nosferatu, and the woman outsmarts everyone in the film. And it's the same with Bram Stoker's Dracula. The man who is mentally ill in a psychiatric ward and is being helped, and everyone says, oh, poor Renfield. He outsmarts everyone in that book. And so does Mina and Lucy. They both outsmart everyone in the book. So it's funny that in the creative arts, everyone has been equal for a long time. Since the 1800s, we had quite a lot of like our film and theatres. Every single person is on the same field. So I don't know where we've got this kind of...
It'd be interesting to go through history and discover what period that it all changed and we're now where we are now.
Yeah.
With inequalities and stuff like that. That'd be quite interesting to watch.
So Anouk, obviously your introduction to vampires was with this movie. Mm-hmm. What was your vampire movie or literature or figure?
Vampire introduction for me.
True Blood?
No. Do you want to know what it was? It was from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's a good one.
What a good one.
We need to do this one.
I've got a good anecdote for this. So I used to be a drummer, or when I was a child, I used to take drum lessons, and my tutor was mad into horror DVDs, right? So one day I happened to mention that I was really into film, and he went, I've got to give you these DVDs to watch. And he gave me 2 DVDs. One of which was From Dusk Till Dawn, which was my introduction to vampires. And the other one was An American Werewolf in London, which absolutely scared the shit out of me. The transformation scene in that film is, to date, the scariest thing I've ever seen.
I've seen the one in Paris, I think.
That's the sequel, American Werewolf in Paris. It's good as well, but the first one in London is very good. But yeah, that was the first one I watched, and then I mentioned it briefly. I also saw Lesbian Vampire Slayers with James Corden and, oh god, I can't remember his name.
Killers or Slayers? There's just one, right?
Just one. I'm pretty sure it's the Lesbian Vampire. Is it Slayers or Killers?
I think it's Killers.
It might be Killers. If James Corden won, it's Killers, then, or what? I think it's that. But that as well, which was absolutely absurd. It was also a free giveaway in the iTunes used to do that 12 Days of Christmas. It was one of those free giveaways. I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. And I did. And I was like, ah.
I mean, that title in itself is just insane. Sorry, everyone's yawning. Stop
That's
it.
me. It's contagious.
It
It's
is
like
contagious.
being vampires.
Do you know what? There's a thing
I'm
to
going
that.
to make you yawn.
Apparently, it's a psychological thing.
Is it?
Because, yeah, so the reason why you're yawning is because you're not taking enough oxygen.
Exogen.
You're not taking enough oxygen.
It was the nuxygen and the X.
I know, it's the oxygen. And so mentally, everyone around you is like, oh, if you're going to take the oxygen, I need to also top up my oxygen. So then
Oh, right.
that makes you want to yawn as well.
Yann, what was your first vampire movie?
Movie. Well, it was not a movie. There
Or
was
experience with vampires?
Elizabeth Bathory, which was a Hungarian countess in the 1600s,
Oh my God, yes, I know this story.
who was
You met her?
she killed
Wow.
allegedly killed
That was
more.
an interesting night.
She allegedly killed more than 600 women.
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
For their blood to conserve her beauty. And she has been labeled in the Guinness World Book of Records as the most prolific female murderer.
wow.
That's quite incredible.
When was she around?
1600s.
1560 to...
She's like a female version of Vlad the Impaler. Basically, it sounds like that. Like he was.
Yeah, she was not that... Yeah, probably. Yeah, Vlad Tepes.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've probably been out with a vampire.
Wait, what?
Was she drinking blood?
Oh my God, did you give someone your blood, Adam?
That might explain like my sudden voluntary moves. Like maybe there's a voodoo doll.
Is that why you're so pale?
Yeah, that's why I'm yawning. I'm getting ready to. I've been up too early. I need to get back to bed.
You should have a biscuit and get some blood back into you.
Have a biscuit.
Yeah, they don't. When you give blood, they give you biscuits.
Biscuits. I'm like, what?
Have a biscuit.
I was about to go. How English are you? Oh, have a biscuit.
Have a biscuit.
Have a biscuit and a cup of tea, and it'll be all right.
Are you in the UK? Because in France...
Yes.
Yes.
You are in the UK right now.
Scotland is
Wow.
still part of the UK.
So are you
I think we're
in...
going to have to edit this quite a lot.
Definitely take out the bit about me going into a vampire. Definitely take that out.
So,
Please.
are you in the UK paid for giving up your blood?
No.
Is it a thing? No, it's not.
Charitable.
Yeah, just like in France. I think in the US you get paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. It may have moved sides, but at some point, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't really just farm giving blood because, you can't eat that shit. It's like, how did you make your money this week? I gave 7 pints of blood. I made $60 this week. Jesus.
I wonder how much that you would get for. How do you give like what, one?
I'm sure people.
No idea.
I'm sure the black market has people can buy blood.
Organs.
I've took this podcast to a weird place.
Organs are really,
Blood?
really
No, it's
expensive.
red thread. The
Yes.
blood. Do you have any feelings about the 1979 remake by Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. But on that note, I do know that the remake.
None of us have seen it.
No.
We don't feel anything.
They are rebooting. They're doing the Nosferatu. It's in the works right now. It's in production.
Yes, I heard this.
okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be really weird for me to watch.
I'm trying to remember the director. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he confirmed it was in 2015. They asked him if he was doing it. He said yes. And then in 2016 he said, I'm still doing it. So it's going ahead. They might have stopped now, but yeah, they're doing Nosferatu again, which is be good.
Okay, now I'll come to the movie The Shadow of a Vampire. So just like there is The Room and The Disaster Artist,
Right.
like a movie and another movie about the making of that movie.
Is there a movie about making Nosferatu?
Yes.
Oh
but
my God, we
As
need
a
to see that.
fictionalized, the film is exploring the legend that the actor playing Nosferatu was a real vampire. And that movie is with Willem Dafoe and... Jesus Christ. No, not the bearded guy.
That sounds so ridiculous.
Well, it was produced by Nicolas Cage's Saturn Film Company.
Again, sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
Okay, no, it was with Willem Dafoe and... Well, I don't remember the name of the other one. Oh, yeah, John Malkovich, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So John Malkovich, who played... I don't remember which one it was, but anyway, John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe.
So
I'm really concerned
is this
about-
the one, the Nosferatu 2017?
This one is the 2000.
Apparently there's one coming out on the 31st of October.
What? What?
Right?
The new Nosferatu is coming out this year.
Is it?
Really?
This is what they're saying.
Right.
Alright, fucking ring there.
This film, so Shadow of a Vampire, was one of the earliest production using kind of a crowdfunding.
In the 2000s?
Yes. There was an online community known as the Hollywood Stock Exchange, which is online still, which I used to play on. It was kind of a betting game. So you started with $2 million Hollywood dollars, and you would bet on movies you would think would do well at the box office.
Oh.
And there was at one point I think it was you gave $5 or a tiny amount, and you would have your name listed in the DVD release as the virtual producer.
Wow.
For this movie in 2000.
Oh wow!
That's crazy.
It was distributed by Lionsgate, which is relevant because later versions of crowdfunding in terms of video productions were with the revival of Veronica Mars.
Oh,
like
I know of it. I've never seen it.
2013, like they got $5 million on Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah, to revive the thingy. Zach Braff, the Scrubs lead.
Yes.
Did his own thing. Wish I Was Here in the year after that, 2014. 3 million on Kickstarter. And Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion, Con Man.
Yes.
In 2015 on Indiegogo. $3 million.
That is pretty
to do their
pretty
own
good.
thing.
Are they meant to be the biggest sums? Because I know the biggest
Yeah,
one.
they are in terms of video productions. Yeah.
What about Laser Team?
Laser Team?
Laser Team is the feature film made by Rooster Teeth Productions, who crowdsurfed theirs, and they raised $6 million.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a Kung Fury that raised quite a bit also.
Oh God.
So yeah, Lionsgate, what it's relevant because, it was interesting to be part of Con Man because now we're in the crowdfunding, why not? So if you're into all this sci-fi, Joss Whedon kind of stuff.
Yes.
There was a Buffy that started it all, then a few other things, and at one point Firefly.
We actually call my brother Buffy because he loved Buffy so much. It's his
Is that
nickname
true?
now. Yeah, we call Buffy because he loves Buffy.
Wow.
He still watches it. Bless him. He's 36 and he just loves Buffy.
So there was Firefly, which was cancelled too soon by a network, Fox, that didn't really understand stuff. But it was so successful, the DVD box sets, that Joss Whedon actually did a follow-up movie, which kind of wrapped things up. And 10 years later, a few years later, the two leads, I would say, it was kind of an ensemble cast, but I would say the main, like Alan Tudyk, who is huge in the voiceover scene. It was Sonny, the robot in iRobot.
Cool.
It was K2SO in the Rogue One.
Oh yeah.
He's the Wei, the chicken in Moana.
Oh, amazing.
Loads of stuff. And Nathan Fillion is best known today for Castle. So they did their own project. They wanted to have, because in conventions they were having so much fun and so passionate fans that, there were so many stories to tell, funny stories. So Alan Tudyk wrote a series that was, for starters, a web series. They asked for 400 for 3 episodes. And they reached 1 million in 2 hours or something.
Nice.
Crazy.
Yeah, so they
That's
actually
amazing.
did a full season of 12 episodes, and I contributed at a level that allowed me to actually go there on set.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, and I got a line, which was not planned, so it was my first
Ever line.
acting credit with a character name on
That's
IMDb.
pretty good.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, that is pretty
That's
good.
really good.
Not everyone can say that.
And following the circuit of that, they had the distributing deal with, where first of all, it was released on demand via Vimeo. Then Comic-Con HQ, which is a streaming service from Comic-Con International and Lionsgate, got the distribution rights, so it was on that for some time. And it's coming to actual television in a few days,
Oh wow.
actually on Sci-Fi.
Oh cool.
Amazing.
Yes.
So Yann's going to be on TV.
Hey.
Hey. You've made it, Yann.
You've made it, Yann. You can retire.
So Let's put the nail in Nosferatu's coffin.
Oh, ha ha ha.
Anouk,
Yes.
Yann, is Nosferatu good, bad, or just plain standard? Anouk?
It's good. It's
Yann?
very good.
It's good.
It's good. It's without this, horror movies wouldn't be what they are today, especially vampire movies.
Very true.
You know?
Kind of that iconic cult film that started things off.
So,
I think in terms of vampire movies that we could do afterwards, I would suggest Blade.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn, yes.
Indeed. The Coppola Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 7 seasons of Buffy, so that's a bit of a stretch. So maybe
First series of Buffy?
There's a whole there's a TV series of Dusk Till Dawn now as well.
Yes, there is.
Indeed. Yeah,
I actually quite enjoyed. I watched 2 episodes of it, and I actually quite enjoyed it. It's exactly like the film, so I mean, it's not like they tried very hard to make it different.
Which one?
The From Dusk Till Dawn TV series.
Yeah, okay.
So
Let us know, listener, what vampire movie would you like us to cover?
yeah, or any horror film.
Yeah, because Buffy was a movie first.
Yes, you are
Terrible
right.
movie. Written by Joss Whedon, but terrible.
Oh dear.
And he knew it was just kind of...
Oh bless.
We should definitely do that then. We haven't done a bad movie yet.
Yeah, let's do a bad movie, guys.
Or just make us do the whole Twilight series, why not?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have an idea for a whole month of podcasts that would be an episode coming out a day, and that I will reveal to you all very soon. It will probably be in either probably February, because we're going to do Scottish month, I think.
Yes, in January. Yes.
For old Robbie Burns, eh?
Yes.
For old
5th, his birthday.
Aye. So we're doing a whole Scottish month, which will be fun for
We
me.
can do a French month.
Yes, I was thinking about... I actually planned a French... Well, I have 3 or 4 Luc Besson movies in a row.
Ooh.
Like Léon, The Fifth Element, and Valérian right after. Yeah, I'm probably missing.
Well, I'll just reveal it now then, that for English month, we could have done all these classic English British films, but I don't think they qualify. So, for the month of St. George's Day, we will be reviewing every single Carry On movie. Yann will have never heard of the Carry On series, so he's in for a treat.
Oh god.
We own all 30 episodes, so we will be watching every
proud to say.
single Carry On movie and reviewing it.
I'm in for a cultural treat then.
Oh, you definitely are.
I'll upgrade my skills.
all England for all of its racist, sexist.
We should absolutely show Yann right now after this recording a Carry On film. I think that's a good idea.
Cool.
So, thanks for listening, listeners.
Thank you.
Just one...
Sorry.
Sorry, never mind.
Never
Rewind.
mind.
No, I'm just suggesting one site. It's called TV Tropes, and you've got vampire tropes in there. So you want to study a bit before we get back to you with vampires. You've got info on some of the improvised cross, like the Must Be Invited, which is not in all
Oh, yeah.
you
have to
movies.
welcome into that
I
house.
discovered that with Buffy, actually.
It's
I don't
in,
remember seeing...
It's in lesbian vampires, like killers. They have to invite them in.
Yes.
So they did it. God's sake.
Yeah, so also once again to find Nosferatu if you haven't seen it yet. So Nosferatu streaming on Google will lead you straight on the good version, because I've noticed they're doing something nice now. In Google, you type movie streaming, and you get the first thing you get is where you can find them.
Oh, that's good.
So John Wick will give you a link to YouTube movies and Google Play.
Oh, cool.
And yeah.
That's good. All right. So, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard. I've been Adam.
I'm Anouk.
And I'm Yann.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.